We are live for real now. All right, it's looking like we're in business, Alyssa. Oh, I can actually now see you because I know you've been on for a while, but I wasn't even looking at you. I can now look at you and I can now see you. Hey, how are you?
Hello.
All right,
I know.
Yeah, so somebody said in the post earlier, I wanted to ask you this. She said, I think it was Katina. She said it's Mercury retrograde. Do you believe it?
Right, it's a Mercury retrograde. Something's going on in the world.
Yeah. What do you think? Because we hear that quite often, right? We often hear Mercury retrograde. So what's your take on that?
You know what's funny is that actually this morning, when I'm on my way to the office, I forgot my phone. And I remember thinking to myself, that's so weird. Like, when do I ever forget that? Yeah. And I had to turn around and I drove back up the mountain as fast as possible. And I was racing. So, and it was just a full moon. Yeah, sometimes I don't know, I'm not someone who knows too much about like Mercury retrograde, but I do know that energy,
Yes.
Sometimes it's wonky.
Yes. I sometimes feel like sometimes we can utilize Mercury retrograde as the reason why. Like that's why I actually have like two perspectives, and I don't think it's not that I don't believe that planets and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's just that so often I feel like I have again two aspects about that. When we are thinking the same thing, like
right,
we are amplifying the same thing,
right?
Yeah, like this is what I believe, because I feel like we keep probably like recreating or amplifying the same thing over and over again with our minds and stuff like that. But also I also feel like even if it's happening, our choices always trump everything. Right?
Maybe I agree. Yeah, our choices trump everything. So
our choices always.
Yeah, you just kind of have to be like, okay, the energy's wonky.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and just kind of navigate. Use your GPS from there. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it doesn't mean necessarily don't do anything. It's funny. Somebody read my chart once, and they said, they're like, on my chart, it was like I was born in retrograde, which means like there's a whole aspect of my chart that's in retrograde forever.
That is not. And how did you think that?
Oh, okay. So I just exist in retrograde. Yeah.
That could also be powerful. That could be power.
Right. It could be powerful. So it's not necessarily what we think,
Exactly. Exactly. It's what we make of it, right? All right. Yeah. So you are here. So now it's going to be a little bit complicated seeing the comments. All right. Oh, Jen says we are troopers. Yes, we are. Hi,
we're troopers. Yeah, we don't give up. Here we are.
We never give up, right? This is exactly what we're talking about. No matter what, right? It's our choices. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Madia. Hey, Katina. Hey, Jen. Yes. Oh, everyone is here. I think everyone wants to hear what's about your baby and what happened.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't bring the baby's not here with me to show.
I know. She's never.
I'm sorry.
The baby. I was in Sedona, but I didn't get to meet her either. Soon, very soon. I did see her.
Very soon.
All right, so while we're doing that, can you, for those that don't know who you are, there have been plenty of new people in the group, on my Facebook page. Since last time you've been here, it feels like it's more than a year ago now, right?
It's been a long time. It's been a long time, yeah.
You've been busy incubating.
That's one way to say it.
Yeah. Can you tell everybody who you are and what you do specifically in Sedona?
Yeah, so my name is Alyssa Lawrence. I am the director of Sedona Healing Arts in Sedona. And specifically, I do something called spiritual detox. Now we call it Awakening to Spirit. A detox program, 28-day detox, deep detox program that goes beyond the physical to the metaphysical. I kind of am the lead facilitator for that program and developed it. And then on top of that, I do a lot of work around intuitive development. So in a nutshell, that's me.
And there is so much more to your lesson than eyes can meet.
Oh, I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds good.
It sounds good. And it's a really, really good thing. All right, so I've gotten the chance and the opportunity to really hang out with you and meet with you and, you know, do lots of things with you in the past, I would say. In the past, what I said 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2-3 years. And I personally have done the detox. It has become one of my go-to things for me and for my husband. And of course, like in other chats, we'll talk a lot more about that. But for now, everyone wants to know about your baby. Everyone wants to know.
Yeah. So
everyone
yes,
wants...
I have I guess she's about 23 and a half weeks now. So she's almost 6 months old. So I had a baby in June.
Yes.
Yeah. It was quite an adventure because I think I'm almost 40 years old. Yeah, I'm almost 40 years old. And for most of my life, I've kind of just lived this path. Like I came out of the legal, I was a lawyer. I became a lawyer very young, but I came out of the legal profession pretty quickly and have been doing this kind of spiritual, type of work for, upwards of 15 years. So it was very interesting, more than interesting, not the word I would choose for it, enlightening perhaps, to experience kind of being initiated into motherhood, after spending so much of my life, like just doing spiritual work. I think it's, I can only speak for myself, and it's not like I had a child before and after, so I don't know. But what I have observed is because, through spiritual development, your awareness is just so sharp. Your ability to see things from multiple points of view and how you experience everything is more expanded. Definitely from the pregnancy to the actual birth to the, to where she is now in her development, has been a tremendously enlightening, even the smallest things, not just enlightening about the child, like Guillaume herself, but for me, about who we are as human beings, about healing. And it's definitely changed me for the better. Brought a much, I think, greater perspective. It's kind of like you don't know until you know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know until you know. Yeah, so yeah, I think that some people look at me and they feel, I think, although people don't talk about it a lot, kind of being initiated into motherhood is kind of, it takes a lot of energy. Maybe that's the best way to say it, I think anyone who's been through it, and maybe that's why we don't talk that much about it, because it is so dramatic, almost. I really want to look at it on the positive end, because I think it is positive, but it can almost be traumatic, I think, for many people. Yeah, and I think that's why people don't hover on that, talking about it,
I think the fact that you were already aware of energy is the reason why you could actually, like, not only become aware of how traumatic it could be for someone that is not aware of energy, but also how much energy it actually takes, and
it takes it tremendous, tremendous. Yes, I think being aware, like, I think if I was not an energy person and had not developed myself energetically and gone through this experience, I think I wouldn't know. I wouldn't necessarily have the consciousness to be like, oh, the energy is doing this. I would just be maybe exhausted or, emotional or whatever, and I wouldn't necessarily concoct that's because of energy. But because I'm an energy person, everything to me is just like how the energy is moving.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, yeah. One of the main reasons why I really wanted to have this conversation with you is because I myself, when I had my kids, I actually knew nothing about energy at all, like zero, nada, like absolutely no awareness at all. But now I look back and I realize how, first of all, even just like carrying a baby and going through the process of having a child can be very, very depleting energetically, and how that puts you in a certain energetic condition where it actually, like, of course, like when like so many ladies will have like postpartum depression and stuff like that, how it is so much related to energetic condition in the body.
Yes, it's totally related to your energetic condition. So I do want to say this though. Yeah. I think that motherhood, becoming a mother, can be actually, instead of depleting, I mean, you're going to go through tiredness, but it energetically can develop you and you can become more powerful energetically, but only if you enter into pregnancy and motherhood with an awareness of how to cultivate the energy as you're going through it. And I think that in our society, there's no information. There literally is like almost no information about how to do that. And for me, a lot of it just came intuitively, really, like I said, because I had this background, and so I observed things, or I would shift things or change things, how I was doing things in my life in order to compensate or to, because I needed to, because that's what the energy was telling me to do. So like now when I look at it, like, so I really want to share something about giving birth.
Yes.
Yeah, so I gave birth at home.
You did? Yeah. I did not know. That is news to me. That's breaking news to me. I didn't know that. Tell me more.
And actually there was supposed to be a midwife, but they didn't come. So it was just me and my husband, who went through the birth process. Yeah.
Wait, what did I do? I think that is news to me. That's because it was echoing. All right.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
So you had a bit, it was just you and your husband?
Yeah. Okay. And I remember I had gone to the hospital because my water broke, and I went and I did my sessions, like how I normally do my healing sessions for people. The whole day that I was in labor, your water breaks and you're in labor for hours before you really have pain. I just did sessions all day. Yeah. And then around 4.
Wait, your water broke and you were doing sessions while your water was
I did.
Why?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like just very calm. I wasn't really nervous or anything. And, it was my first experience. I was just like, so I went to the hospital, I remember around 4:30 p.m. because I was like, let me check. Anyways, I had planned to have the birth at home. Yeah. But let me just check, because she was a little bit early. She was about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks early. Let me just check, to make sure everything's okay. So I went to the hospital and they took my vitals, they took the baby's vitals, and everything was fine.
Yeah.
And then they were like, when did your water break? And I was like, 9 a.m. They're like looking at me like, and I know the nurse didn't say it, but she was thinking, you're gonna have this child in like an hour or something, you know?
Yes.
And they wanted to fly me because I live in such a small town. They wanted to fly me to the main hospital in Flagstaff. I said no. I signed myself out of the hospital and I went home. Yeah, yep. Because I knew I did not want. I just knew what I wanted my birth experience to be. I'm not going to say I didn't have fear about it. I hadn't read a million books. You know, and I think I had started to read about all these things and I stopped myself. Do you know why? Because I felt that it was giving me anxiety. And because I had done energy work for so much of my life, I trusted my energy sense more than I trusted the knowledge, you know? And so I just went into the unknown kind of that way and went into the birthing experience that way. I knew something about how to, you know, about contractions, but actually very little. But honestly, as the labor progressed, that observation consciousness I developed in me was like the key tool. I could see the pace, the energy getting faster. I could feel it moving. I could feel when the baby started twisting. I could feel it when the head was moving down. I could feel the cervix opening. I think a lot of those things I would not have been aware of if I was not developed energetically.
Of course not.
You're like, yeah.
Yeah, of course not. Yes, of course.
Yeah. And it wasn't because I had read a whole bunch of things. It's like you're one with your body. So you knew, you know, you knew what was going on. And so the birth, it took about 3 hours. It wasn't a long labor, you know, it moved. It was like, I was running around the house. I could not understand how anyone could lie down and give birth. I was walking in circles, you know, and because I had used my voice a lot when I did energy training, I was like really using my voice to release energy, you know. Anyone who was down the street, I'm sure was like, what's going on?
Okay, so to release energy, would that mean to release the pain?
To release the pain and also to move. You have to like move the baby down through the canal, right? You have to move the baby down to the vaginal canal. And so part of it is like, it's like this downward, like you have to like energetically move the energy down.
Yeah.
Almost like, just like when you're training and you move the energy down to your dungeon. Yeah. It's really no different.
Yeah.
And that's what I found. I was like, oh, there's more pain involved, but it's really no different than pulling energy down to your dungeon. Wow. Yeah. So, yeah. I know. It's like
the things I'm learning from you today. Oh my God. All right. So, I don't know what we were talking about. So, what are the experiences? So, let me ask you another question. What are the things that, you know, like as we are pregnant, a lot of things change in our body, right?
Oh yeah.
So what are the main things that you like that were like a shock to you? If there was any.
I don't know if I'd use the word shock, but of course, the hormones, the hormonal change that happens is so massively significant. You know, definitely, like everyone talks about, my dietary preferences changed, you know. So honestly, during my pregnancy, I started to eat like more fish. Like I'm pretty vegan. And by taste, not even because I try so hard to be vegan, it's just my taste. Yeah. And during my pregnancy, I ate a lot of fish. Like every single day, I needed fish. Yeah. You know,
so
there was some,
yes.
Yeah. And I realized and I think it's just because your mineral needs change. Yeah. And I think that you can still be vegan and do it, but you have to, the amount of what you're eating has to go up so significantly if you're vegan, to obtain the minerals and to make it balanced. And if you had an imbalance before you were pregnancy, now is where it's gonna like show itself to death, you know? Because your body's now under stress trying to produce another human being. So I would drink, you know, my probiotic drink, or like my I would make these drinks, and I would drink like 4 of them a day. I would be like, you know, it was unbelievable, like how much my dietary preferences changes. And it took me a while to adjust to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know you and I talked about this, and you shared how like at some point you felt a little bit constipated or like congested. And you can you tell me, because you told me that you actually kind of accidentally like created this recipe. I don't know if I said probably from your own intuition or knowledge.
Yes.
Mixed up all these like into a milk that you started drinking. And
yes,
tell me more about that. Yes.
Yeah. So it was really in the middle of pregnancy because of need.
Yeah.
Both for certain vitamins and to make things move.
Yes.
In my gut, that I kind of began making this drink based kind of in superfoods, you know, and that drink literally saved my life. You know, when you go and you have to, anyone who's been through pregnancy, you kind of have to go and see where your proteins are at, and like, you know, on a regular basis and stuff like that. That drink, that one thing alone, pretty much corrected every imbalance I had, and also got me going to the bathroom. So by the time I was in my 3rd trimester, when most people, I think, experience a lot of constipation, I was going to the bathroom. I felt like I was on a detox. I was pooping like 5 times a day. I was like, this baby is emptying my gut. Emptying my gut.
Yeah. So everybody who's watching, if you're watching this, so Alyssa and I have talked about this before, and I was like, we need that recipe. I need that recipe. And so she shared the recipe with me, and we actually created a page where you can go request the recipe. If you go to bit.ly / I should remember. I should remember her own link, but I'll post the link somewhere around here. I think it's bit.ly / Detox Milk. There you go. Detox Milk. Yeah. Bit.ly / Detox Milk, and then you can have it there. I'll of course post the link somewhere here. I haven't tried it yet, but I am so looking forward to it. I saw the recipe, and I saw how simple it is. Actually, I just need to go get some of the ingredients, and I can't wait. I can't wait to try it. Yeah.
Yeah, it really works. Even now, if I drink it, and I'm always, you go to the bathroom. Always, you know, everything moves. A lot of not going to the bathroom, I think. Sure, it's hydration. There's different factors, but it's also nutrient deficiency. And the balance of bacteria in the gut, you know. And so this drink really addressed it. So it really saved my life during pregnancy. So I realized a lot of when people have develop issues in pregnancy, though I'm not a doctor, what I found was that what I realized was that it's a nutrient deficiency problem. And I think when people are depressed after pregnancy, even like all kinds of trouble, or you see them going through physical difficulties, it's also nutrient deficiency, you know? Yeah.
It's interesting that you've said that, because I remember the days when I wasn't eating enough, I would feel constipated.
Yeah, you really, and it's more than eating enough. It's you need to get those nutrients. You need the nutrients. Yeah.
All right, now I Respect. And I will, so like guys, if you try this, please share with us your results, how yummy it is, how delicious is it? How delicious is that? I haven't tried
it. Is really delicious. Yeah. It's really delicious, especially you warm it up. Oh, it's so delicious.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I will let you know. I'll try it. I'll definitely let everybody know what I think about it, how tasty it is, and what it does for my gut. And everybody, if you're watching this, again, if you can go to bit.ly / milk detox milk. That's it. You can request that recipe. It's very, very, I'm very, very excited about it. Let me see if anyone has questions. Now we have to juggle left and right to see comments. Let me see if I can actually see these comments inside of Facebook here. So tell me a little bit more about now after pregnancy. What, like after you've had Ioma, what did you notice energetically in your body?
So after pregnancy, so from the moment I gave birth, and I think everyone, when you give birth, you lose a lot of fluids and you lose a lot of blood. And so immediately after birth, your iron is extremely deficient. And you really have to work to get it back to normal, actually, And I know like you'll have an IV.
Your iron?
Yeah, your iron is going to, the baby takes your iron with it. And also you lose a lot of blood, So very naturally, right after pregnancy, your iron levels are low, and the iron levels are very low in the body. Yeah.
And what kind of impact does that, like what does that do to the body when your iron is low?
So think about somebody who's anemic, and the kind of symptoms they would have. Yeah. So they're going to be very exhausted, some symptoms are going to be exhausted. Your heart can be a little bit stressed. So it's like you can have heart arrhythmia, or, anxiety is going to result, depression. Depression is really just kind of the emotional result of low energy, and feeling like you really can't do anything. Yeah. So you can become emotional. Just even things like walking are hard, when iron levels are low, you just don't have any energy to do anything. Yeah. That's the main thing. Yeah. And I think that's the main.
I listened to her. This is so enlightening to me. Because like, I don't know, like, I think you know this about me, how like I grew up with sickle cell, right? I still have sickle cell in my DNA. It's sickle cell anemia, which means like, which means like anemia is kind of like, it's a done deal with me. Every time I go to a doctor's office, and like every single time, and they call me very alarmed. Listen, like sometime one time ago, this was maybe 6-7 years ago, I went to the doctor's office and like just for a regular physical, and they called me very, very alarmed. They said, "You must call us back ASAP." This was the first time that I was doing a physical with them, and they're like, "Your iron level is so like blah blah blah. You're
right.
Sick, blah blah blah." And I said, "No worries. This is something that it's nothing new for me. This is something that's it kind of comes with the territory for me.
Right.
This is something that I manage. This is something that I have to manage." And to think that like after having a baby, of course, now it makes so much sense how like it's actually kind of, as you sharing this with me, it's really computing, because at the same time I realized this because I was very low in energy, in my storage of energy was very low.
Right.
Which got me into like not being present physically, like mentally in my life. And
oh yeah, you can be totally spacey.
Yeah,
you would have, you might develop, you might develop headaches. You might not be, like prone to collapsing.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how it is so physiological, but at the same time, it's also the mind.
Yeah.
To me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I really think pregnancy, the key to the mind part of pregnancy is really physiological. It's a nutrient, thing. You know, it's so interesting. After I gave birth, though, and maybe many people have experienced this, but a lot of people, like, we think about the relationship with the child, you know, as the mother is giving a tremendous amount. But I think a couple of days ago, I was really sitting down and I realized just as much as the mother's giving to the child's attachment to the mother, and the breastfeeding is also very much healing and managing the mother, you know, managing her emotions, producing certain hormones in the mother's body to make sure that she can take care of that baby. The baby is managing the mother to make sure the mother will take care of the baby. You understand?
Yeah.
Which is the baby, on some level, it's a symbiotic relationship where that child is helping healing you,
Your mother,
you know, to make sure that you're there.
Yeah. The meal ticket. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Really.
But it's being done very intuitively without the baby really thinking about it.
Yeah, they don't think about it. It's just intuitive.
Yeah.
And they will latch to your nipple longer. You know, if you watch a baby, if you're stressed, they latch and will want to be close to you longer. And the mother, and some people may think, oh, this is so, how I can't handle it. The baby's always blah, blah, blah. But actually it's because the baby's trying to heal you.
Oh my God.
And people think, you know, it's a complaining baby or something, but the baby intuitively is trying to make sure its caregiver is okay.
Wow.
And trying to produce hormones in that caregiver's body. So I remember one day I was stressed and my daughter was nursing more than usual. And I was observing what was happening inside of me. And like, you know, I was sitting there, it was like a meditation. And that's when I really had that awakening. I was like, oh, this is a symbiotic relationship. This is not just, you know, when you have a child, it's not just you need to give everything to the child. The child is also giving tremendously to you.
The mother. Oh, this just made me get goosebumps, actually. Oh, wow. All right. So I don't think you have, like, I was never aware of that, right? Because, like, again, like, by the time I had kids, I was so, you know, like, I wasn't, like, I didn't have any, you know, like, awareness of energy, nothing like that. And so I think it's really, really beautiful when, you know, like if I were to have kids today, which I want, but like I think, but I think it will be a completely different experience, and not for me, sure, it will be a different experience. But like I think about my kids a lot. I think about how much different they will have been, you know.
So what I thought about that, I was like, that is a very big shift in consciousness. Instead of always thinking, oh, I just have to give my life to this child, to realize that child is also giving their life to you.
Yes. Yeah.
It changes the meaning of motherhood and takes away a lot of the burden. And a lot of people will think, well, you know, it's you as mother who's supposed to be, you know, taking care of the child. But the reality of nature is that it's a symbiotic relationship.
Wow.
It's just what it is. And you're handling the child's physical body, but they're also trying to control your, bringing you back to the present moment and trying to control your stress. If you can just appreciate what's happening.
And surrender. This is so interesting because like as my kids have grown up, it has become so clear, right? How no matter what the beginning has been, it has become so clear that like they are here to heal me and that I'm here also to heal them in some way. We also heal each other. But I never thought about it as they were little kids. I never thought about the fact that actually they chose to be here with me. They chose, you see what I mean? As they were kids, they gave, like, I love how you said it, how you put it. She gave herself to you. Like literally.
Yeah.
And you see what I mean? That's a completely different perspective. Like that's
Yeah, it's almost like she entrusted her care, right? Her
yeah,
care
yeah,
to me, but also she wanted to care for me. Like, so
good.
that's why that child came to you.
Yeah,
It's not, it's really symbiotic. It's really astonishing and powerful. I'm quite, it's like mind boggling
yeah,
how nature
yeah. Yeah.
works. Yeah.
Do you think that because at the beginning you said that your whole kind of most of your life you've really focused simply on your spiritual growth? Do you
As-
think that this is another spiritual growth, or do
oh,
you think it's
absolutely.
separate?
This is definitely,
Yeah.
this is definitely another spiritual growth. Yeah. And the wonderful thing is, like, as I observe her develop, what I observe in her, all those things that in the brain development of a baby, we still have them as adults. And we still need to use those functions as adults. That's what's ironic. It's like we look at a baby and we're like, oh, they're just a baby develop. I'm like, even as an adult, it's the same brain functions, the same things we need in order to manage ourselves. And so through her, I get a lens, very tight experience and a lens into, it's very inspiring, makes me want to write new programs because I'm getting a like firsthand lens into like the human brain development, and I feel like those things that I'm seeing, those secrets that I'm perceiving, oh my gosh, they would be used by everybody, not just children. It has to do with the human brain and how we function and how we can manage it and how we can be healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One quick tip for everybody. While you're sharing that, I'm going to see something that comes to mind through everything that you've experienced in the past year, 9 months or so. Like, what's the one thing, like, if you were to share, like, one thing, one big awareness that came to you that you feel everybody should know about or everybody should have that top of the mind, what would it be? While you're doing that, I'm going to see if there's any questions.
Okay.
Over here, yeah.
Well, so a quick tip about that, that is the result of my awakening from.
Yeah.
Probably this, to really connect with your inner child. So even whether you have a child or not, the part of us that needs healing can be healed by connecting to our inner child. That child knows exactly what you need.
Yeah.
It's the brainstem, it's the part of your brain that will do what it needs to be okay. If you watch babies, they just do whatever they need to be okay.
Yeah.
We're the same way. And so there is still the spirit of that inner child in you. And if you connect with it, then intuitively you're going to know what you need.
Connect to the inner child of you.
Yeah. Maybe that's a bit of a esoteric tip, but
did you say esoteric?
Esoteric, it's a little bit of an esoteric tip. Yeah, but or I don't know, out there tip, but
I think it's very valid, actually. I think like when I look at it now, sometimes when I observe kids, and this is one of big awareness that has come to me lately. Like, it's so funny how lately the one thing that I think about is, I think I know something, but I don't know a damn thing. Like looking at things. Yeah, like looking at things from empty, kind of empty space, or like new eyes, like, oh, I want to discover this, or because like in the past, like having this rigid mind of, oh, I already know that, oh, I already know this, or I already know that. I feel like as adults, that can actually keep us from really discovering so much more.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you observe a baby, nothing is taken for granted.
Yes, everything is
Every little experience,
yeah.
they're so present for.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Present for, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think it's that quality is not something that just belongs to babies. So the one thing I want to say about this is one thing that's coming to me actually,
Yeah.
is that being a baby is not being a baby is basically, I feel like it's like a small human being. Like
Yeah.
we call them babies and we're like, oh, it's a baby. And sometimes the assumption is that somehow they're less intelligent or less of something. And
Mm-hmm.
the
But
thing
we
that I
are.
found is like that assumption is wrong.
It's
They're
so
not
funny
less
because
of
I
any, they're not
yes.
less of anything. Um,
Nah.
in
Yes.
fact, they're extraordinarily connected and they know
Mhm.
exactly what they need for their development. It's almost it's admirable. And even a baby's cuteness and its coos and everything are part of nature's way of making sure the baby gets what it needs, So they're like tiny humans, like it's just that their body is tiny, but it doesn't mean their consciousness is tiny. Does it make sense what I'm trying to say?
Always so much. Always so
Yeah,
much.
so we want
Actually,
to treat babies like they don't know anything,
yeah.
but it's not.
I saw it like actually it's so funny that you mentioned that because this was the subject of a newsletter that I sent earlier this morning before even our Facebook live here. And like what I shared in it was really how I shared my life very openly actually. I shared about like my experience like with Neil, who is our younger child, and also I've shared my experience with William also, who's our oldest child. And one of the things that sadly William had to go through has been anxiety and depression and stuff like that. And when I look back now, I feel like because now, like even over the weekend, we were doing something. I was hugging him, and we were very present. And I was looking back, and I was thinking about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, how back then he actually really didn't want anything to do with me. Like he was like so angry at me. He was going through depression. He was going through a lot of anxiety. And when I look back, I can definitely see how one of the main reasons, of course, a lot of the times it's chemical, but what creates that chemical condition in the body? And if I can really look at it objectively and honestly look at it, I can see where, like how this child just wanted to be free. This child just wanted to be loved unconditionally. This child just wanted to be, like to be himself because he had his own, like he had his own awareness. But what we were trying to do was out of, parents, because we meant well, it wasn't like we didn't love him. It's out of our own fears or out of our own preconditionings, we tried. So many parents tried to cage their kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Into
Oh, don't do this, don't do
don't
that,
do
do
that. Yeah.
this.
As
Yeah.
opposed
And
to
it's a
letting
lot
them
of
really,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And so, like as you said that, of course, I like yes. Now I look back and I'm like, he already knew everything. Really, all he needed was to be allowed to access and to flourish that, to blossom through that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
exactly it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that has been quite awakening. That has been quite awakening to us. But then again, like that can only happen. Like when I look at it now, that could only start happening because we ourselves started being more present. We
Yeah.
ourselves started grounding ourselves more. We ourselves started, like changing our energy. I say change your energy, change your life.
Yeah.
Changing our energy through it so that we can really kind of put a space between the situation
Yeah.
and what created the situation and
Yeah.
observe
Yeah.
and find solutions. And yeah, I so am with you on that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I feel. I feel like I have a baby, and sure, she just has a small body,
Yeah.
but the consciousness is not
Yeah.
necessarily
Yeah.
small.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's my job not to interfere with, if anything, like I have to do my best not to interfere
Yeah.
with who she needs to be,
Yeah.
you know?
And
Yeah.
that's what most of us tried our best to interfere and say,
Yeah.
no, 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 you don't know what you're talking about. We know better.
Yeah.
We know best. Yeah.
I
So,
mean, I need to
yeah,
keep it. It's my responsibility to keep her physical body safe,
that's what,
um,
yeah.
and to love, and provide from a very first chakra perspective. But I think beyond that, like, if you provide that foundation, then,
She'll find her own way.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She'll find her own way. So it is so beautiful to see you this way.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now, here's a question for you. Like, if it feels like Tehessa, you too nosy, just tell me Tehessa, you too nosy. If not, so like, did you like growing up or as a young girl, did you always think I want to have a baby?
Oh
Or
no, I was the person who never thought I would have a child. I think from the time I was 10 years old, I was like, yeah, I'll never have a baby.
you actually stated it, you'll never have a baby?
Yeah, yeah. So, but as I got older, I had to really, especially in the last couple of years, I really, because you get to that crossroads where it's like it's now or never, and I had to really ask myself very honestly. I had to look at myself very honestly and ask myself, reevaluate, what do I want, and I think that looking back, I think the part of me, and I don't think this is always true, but a part of me not wanting to have a child had a lot to do with my own wounding,
Yeah.
and how hard my childhood was,
Yeah.
But what I realized is that life always wants to happen.
Yes.
No, meaning like,
Yeah.
there's a crisis in our world, and
Yes.
still you go outside and the seeds will go into the ground, right?
Yeah.
And the flower wants to bloom,
Yes.
always.
Yeah.
And so I may be hurt or wounded, but for me to impose my wounding, you understand, to restrict expansion because of my own wounding, I realize life always wants to happen, and that's a blessing, not a curse. You understand? And so I think there's a lot of people who work in not just the spiritual world in general. I think if you kind of are conscious and aware, having children is really like, ooh, it's one thing when you're young and unconscious and you have them. But when you really consider like what's going on in the world and you have children, it's like, oof, it can feel a little heavy.
Yeah.
But there are always souls that need and want the opportunity for growth, and that's life.
Yeah, that is life. Yeah.
So that's life, and it's not for us to sort of necessarily to stop that. I mean, either way, it's a choice, but you understand I think you understand what I'm saying.
I understand. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, and so actually becoming pregnant and going through pregnancy and everything really healed on some level my whole life, my whole perspective of my childhood. I had to really, I really had to face myself, face myself very, very deeply about my whole life, and it touched a bit, probably my deepest fear. It touched my deepest fear, but I went through it, and was able to release it. Yeah. And I think that awakening, that's really an enlightenment in and of itself.
Wow.
And I don't think all spiritual people, I think a lot of people who are spiritual are like me. You know, it's the reason they
In
don't
which
have
way?
children. Yeah.
In which
No,
way?
the reason they don't have children, they're like me. They see and feel, they're empathic, and they see and feel all the wounding, you understand? And how difficult it is, right? And how much the world doesn't really let us be ourselves. They don't want that trauma being imposed on someone else.
Oh,
Yeah. So, and so for somebody who's already aware of that, it really takes courage to decide to bring another human being into life, and to know you're not going to be able to control everything. You know, they're going to have their experience. So, but as I said, life wants to happen, wants to be here.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
All right,
yeah.
so we have a few questions here. Hey Jody, hello. Okay, so hi Katina. Can you please type the link to go to? Okay, sure, we'll share. They're asking the link for the milk detox, I call it.
Yeah.
Have a
Yeah.
different name on the page. There's a different name for it. I can't remember. Cocoa something, right?
Right.
What's the name you called it?
I don't. I just, it's like I think of it as like golden milk, but
Golden milk. Oh, I like that. Golden milk. Yeah. Okay, so Jean said you are brave having the baby at home. And she also I do not I do not plan on having another baby, but I would love to have the link to the detox drink. Janet says, can you please send us the link to the detox drink? Of course I will. Katina says, that's a powerful awareness. Yes. Valerie said, does the symbiotic relationship carry on into teenage years and beyond? What do you think? I know you
yeah,
don't have a
I
teenage
think. I mean, I haven't arrived at those years yet.
Yeah.
But if I think of my relationship with my mother, it's completely symbiotic.
Yeah.
Even it changes as we become teenagers and adults.
Yeah.
But it's all still lessons.
Yeah.
You're still learning to the end.
Yeah, I totally agree, because that's exactly what I was sharing earlier about young boys, through especially through teenage years. That's where they're really trying to awaken you without, like, that's not the words that they're going to be used.
Yeah.
Use it definitely when they're testing you, when they like all that, you know, like even though some may say it's hormonal and stuff like that, it's really to awaken us to something.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
I will say that. Okay, Jean says, I absolutely agree. My mom used to say that you can learn so much from babies. In Jamaica, I often forget that your roots are from Jamaica too.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
They often refer to babies as old souls because there is so much wisdom in their eyes. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Jean are watching with me. You okay? All right. So that's that for questions. I think that's it. Any last words before you go?
Last words.
Yeah.
Everything's okay.
Yeah. Even with you.
Yeah. It's all good. It's just yeah, you just you know, somebody told me, my a friend of mine said to me, they're like, you're like way more relaxed after having a child.
Yeah. I can feel that.
Like, it's so weird.
Yeah.
You know, wouldn't you be like more stressed? He's like, no, you're like way less, you know, way less stressed.
Oh, so much more mellow and
yeah, you're like way more.
Yeah. I can see that too. All right, good. All right, it was wonderful having you here live with me. We'll be doing more lives. I don't know which one will be the next topic, but like Alyssa, I know one exciting thing that we decided to start doing regularly, not regular, but a few times in the next couple of months.
Yes.
Is you doing readings public readings like this. This is going to be so
yes.
with members of Peace and Love Story. I am really, really excited about that. And we will like be tuned, stay tuned for how to actually have access to Alyssa's eyes and hands and into your life. Other than that, I know that last time you and I spoke, you told me how you miss your own detox, which I completely understand. Yeah, I'm preparing to, as you know, I'm preparing to do it again. Before we do it again in January. But I'm really, really excited. When I did that detox, it really, 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 really changed my life. Right? It really, really, I didn't know how much, even though we may be doing like changing energetically and really healing our mind and stuff like that. One thing that I wasn't really aware of is how much of an impact, or how much of, I want to say how much of traces, or how much residue our own conditioning and stuff like that lives on our body, lives on our organs, lives on our like intestines and all that. So of course we'll talk more about it. Some of you that are here watching this video, you already know. Several of you have already done the detox and seen how much of an impact it's had on you. This time we're going to do it again soon. It's not now, but it's going to be are we doing January, right? We're doing January. We actually have also, and this is going to be way more accessible than ever before for everybody, price-wise. Yeah, it's exciting, and I can't wait to have that. We will tell you more about it later. But for now, we're just going to be sharing a lot of what would we call it? A lot of content, a lot of awareness, and a lot of games, a lot of games, a lot of readings in the group and stuff like that. So I'm excited. How about you?
Okay, I'm excited. Yes.
Me too.
I'm excited.
Okay. All right, so no more questions. I think we can go now. Have a wonderful day, unless you have anything else to add.
Oh, no, no. I'm going to say have a wonderful day as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Big hugs and kisses to Yoma for me until I meet her physically. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel by hitting the subscribe button right below this video, and also make sure that you hit the notification bell so that you are notified when I post videos just like this one. Bye.